So now we're going to look at a kind of unusual text effect where we're going to have text disperse or blow away. And the way to do this is by using a combination of a replicator and some simulation behaviors. So I'm starting with a simple text layer on a background. And the text layer is intentionally a big blocky text. It works better with a sans serif font like this to do this kind of thing. So the idea is that we're going to basically recreate this text out of a whole bunch of small objects, and those objects are what we're going to blow away. So what I'm going to do is go to the library, to content, and to particle images. And you can use any image to do this that you want. I just think there's a lot of nice things that are useful in particle images for this, because I want some small little object. And like I say, you can use anything you want. I kind of want a little dot of some kind. This one looks like it might work pretty well for what I'm doing. So I'm just going to select it. I'm going to hit apply. And I've got a tiny little dot on the screen there. I'll turn off the text so you can see it. So with that selected, I'm going to make a replicator out of it. And I can just click the little replicator button down here or use the keyboard shortcut L. And this is not a detailed lesson about replicators, but I do have a tutorial specifically that goes into great depth about replicators, which are really one of the best parts of motion for creating motion graphics as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to go to the inspector for the replicator in the replicator tab, and instead of the shape being a rectangle, which we have now, I'm going to choose a shape of an image. When I choose image, I get a well asking for an image source, and this says I will replicate this object, this dot, I will replicate it or make copies of it onto any image you tell me to. Well, you can actually use text as an image. So I'm going to drag text into the image source, that text layer, and what happens is it lines it up to that text. Now I need to kind of drag it to line it up a little better, put around that box there. And I'm going to turn the text off so we can see what's happening. By default, we get this little 5x5 grid, which isn't very useful. So what I'm going to do is change the tile fill arrangement to random fill, and then I'm going to crank up the number of points. Now it's at 5. I want to go way higher than that, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, maybe 1,000. I don't know exactly yet. They're too big. So in the cell controls, I'm going to go down to where the scale is, and I'm going to scale these guys way down. And then it's hard to see what's going on because motion is giving me a little X for every single one of these guys. So I'm going to turn off the overlays right here, Command/, and scale these down nice and small. So I'm down now about 16% of the original size. And I'll go back up top. Now there's an emission alpha cutoff that determines how many of these show up. And I like to set this at 1%. That gives me the most that still gets some sense of definition. It's a little hard to tell what's going on there, but let's increase these more and more. And now we start to see some letters pop up, right? I'm up to about 2,000 of these particles. So this takes some processing power. You're not going to be able to do stuff in real time here, but now I'm up to 3,000. I really can see what that word is now, disperse. I could even go smaller and use more to get a more well-defined set of letters, but I'm going to leave it at about 3,000. In fact, I'll type exactly 3,000 for the number of them. So I've basically recreated my text by using a replicator and created 3,000 tiny little dots that make that thing up. So how do I get them to move? Well, a sequence replicator is one option that would go through and sequence moving them, but that's really not what I want to do here. It's not going to look very natural. What I'm going to do is use something called simulation behaviors, but I need an object for them to act on. And it could be anything. I'm just going to select this little rectangle tool right here, and I'm going to draw a little rectangle. Its size doesn't matter, fill or outline doesn't matter. In fact, I'm going to turn it off so we can't even see it. Let me turn the overlays back on, View, Overlays, so we can actually see where it is. And now I'm going to go to the library, to Behaviors, to Simulations. And there's one in here called Repel. That's what I'm interested in. Take that guy and put it on. And if I play now, it pushes the text away and everything else as well. And that's how it works by default. It just pushes everything away that's in the same group. So what I'm going to do is Shift-Command-N to create a new group, Shift-Command-Left bracket to move that group to the bottom, put the gradient in that group so it's in a separate group, and now that gradient won't be affected. And right away, we're getting kind of a blowing away effect. Notice the E doesn't move. So let's check this out a little bit. If I look at this repel behavior in the inspector, we can see it affects related objects, which means objects in the same group. That's what it means by related objects. It's got a strength we'll mess with. There's an influence, which is 1,000. It means 1,000 pixels. So for example, if I make that 500, hit return, now it only affects up to 500 pixels away, not as far away. I'm going to increase the strength quite a bit, maybe to like, I don't know, let's see what 100 looks like. Okay, still kind of slow. I want this to be pretty dramatic. I'm going to do a strength of 1,000. Okay, that really has a more dramatic impact, but it doesn't work very far away. That's okay. I'm going to animate this through the text. So I'm going to make its influence even smaller, like 100. And it probably won't do anything now because it's not close enough. If I move it to the middle and press play, it'll blow a hole right in the middle of it. But what I want to do is animate it through. So I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to turn on recording. I'm going to move forward in time like for, I don't know, a second. We can change that later. And I'll move this past and turn off recording. And now when I play, it will just blow all of that stuff away. It leaves a little bit on the screen there. And I'm getting very good playback with 3,000 particles, no rendering. Shift-Command-O, make a little play range. So now it's really a matter of playing around with the settings to get the kind of animation that I want to see. So I can change the strength, I can make it even stronger. I'm going to make the influence even lower, like 50, and I'll do it while it's playing back. And there it just kind of cuts a hole in it now. And if you don't want to see the path, I'm going to hit Command/ to turn off the overlays, and we can just see the result of it cutting a hole in there as it works. I'm going to set the strength up to 2,000, make it even stronger. Let's set the influence a little bit bigger. Let's say 80. I think we need to go back to 100 if we're going to blow all the text away. I'm leaving a few there, so a little bit more, 120. And now it seems to just push it all away. So you can really do a lot of variation on this because you can change exactly how this little guy is animating. You can start in the middle, you can have it jump up and down. In fact, a fun thing to do, this is a very uniform spread of these. So what we could do is let's add a parameter behavior to this guy so it wriggles a little bit. So I'm going to go to its properties, to position, and for position Y, and maybe just position Y, I'm going to right click on the Y, add parameter behavior, and I'm going to choose randomize. And notice how there's a little wriggle in that red motion path now. In fact, let's increase the amount, something more like that. And let's see what kind of effect that is. I'm going to hit Command/ to turn off the overlays. And now we get a little more random distribution of those particles. Not dramatic, but a little more random. Because it's moving up and down, we're also leaving some particles there, so I'd probably want to increase the influence area, let's say 200 of the repel, and have it just brush them away. And of course, you could leave this turned on. If this were a graphic of a hand or something, you could have it look like it's actually pushing all those things away or rubbing it off a chalkboard or something. So you can do all kinds of interesting things, but all kind of fun ways that you can create for animating the destruction of text.